Hello, listeners! Welcome to the second episode of the Shire Knights podcast, available on Spotify. The show that lets us super nerdy, grown-up shaped 40k players geek out over the competitive side of the hobby. I'm tonight's host, the AdMech player rocking back and forward in the corner, Mark Hutchin, and I'm joined tonight by knights of many varieties. Tonight, who have we got with us? Some say he microwaves his dice, others that he models top knots in Top Knot magazine, but we just know him as Captain Ryan Rybo Kerr. Say hi, Rybo.
Hello, everyone.
And over on the naughty step, we've got someone who we say washes his playbrush crawlers in a car wash, and others say that he waxes the armpits of every demon prince that he meets, but we know him as Alan Davison.
Evening.
And finally, some people say that he's got a pet Kroot in real life, and others that he manipulates the very fabric of space-time with his banter, but we know him as Nice Chris Jones.
Hi there.
Tonight's podcast is brought to you again by Forth Valley Wargaming. Forth Valley Wargaming is a local tabletop club based in Falkirk with all the tables, terrain and players of most systems that you could want on your doorstep if you're in the central belt of Scotland. Tournaments are run throughout the year, and meeting up on a Thursday night, new members are always welcome. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about one thing and one thing only, which has changed because we were going to be talking about the OPG Teams Tournament, but realistically, that's at the back of everybody's mind now because something dropped today. And it wasn't a clanger, it was awesome. And it's changed the face of the game as we know it. It's Balanced Dataslate Day, guys! Woo!
Dun dun dun! It's really fucking good.
Yeah, so straight into it, let's just have a quick look through what our initial thoughts are. So, I think one of the biggest ones is right at the very start. We've got a buff for Space Marines.
Well, not just Space Marines, any power armoured armies. So you've got Sisters of Battle are in that as well, I believe. And
Nice.
so are all the Chaos Marines and Grey Knights.
Loving it.
Yeah.
So tell us, Rybo, what is the change?
Basically, everything in the army, if they're affected by AP, it is reduced by 1. So if you're hitting a Space Marine that's AP -2, it becomes AP -1. AP -4 becomes AP -3. Against anything with power armor, there is a few exceptions in there though. Units with storm shields, relic shields, combat shields, sacrosanct shields, and then I think Dread Knight invuln saves, they do not get the bonus. Which is a bit funny because now a unit of Storm Shield Terminators versus a unit of Power Claw Terminators are about the same for armor value. Before you would take the Storm Shields to kind of pad their defensiveness, but they're now pretty much the same, besides the invuln save.
Yeah. And then there's going to be choices people need to make over things like your Terminators or your Vanguard Vets, whether you want to take shields or whether you want to take the new AP rule.
Personally, I know I would choose out of the lot. It's Storm Shields cost points.
Yeah, it's interesting. Sisters obviously getting the additional little buff as well on their Miracle Dice.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. They used to generate 1 dice a round. That is now 1 dice a turn, which I think is quite nice because I definitely know folk who went from like the 8th edition codex to the 9th edition codex and were like not getting nearly as many miracle dice as I used to, and then having to change their armies. I think it's kind of swing back in the other direction, and definitely after I feel like the last Data Slate or the last chapter proved one or the other, or maybe both, was quite harsh to Sisters and Death Guard, maybe unduly so, because neither of them were sort of destroying the meta. But yeah, they're definitely done very well out of this, but probably Data Slate, probably one of the big winners from it, I would say.
Yeah, do you think we'll see Sisters go anywhere near top of tournaments again? Because it'd be nice to see them there.
Definitely. I don't know. It's hard. I don't play Sisters, so I'm completely novice when going to it. And obviously, we'll probably come on to the bodyguard rule changing. And I know they liked sort of the shenanigans, the bodyguard rule, which now don't exist in the same way. I don't know. I mean, any. Let's be honest. And overall thoughts for the Data Slate. I thought that GW would be a lot more conservative. It's great what they've done in this, and it'll definitely shake up the top table, surely.
Well, something that's shaking up the top tables, and let's go straight for it. Bodyguard is dead.
Yay.
Praise the
Yeah.
Lord. Thank God.
So
It was always really stupid.
The most
Change-
stupid rule of 9th edition is now dead.
love it, love it, love it. So changing the bodyguard rule to that a character can use the lookout sir rule even if the unit contains fewer than 3 models. And that's it.
Yeah, so essentially what Bodyguard was supposed to be all this time, you know? I think the rules team intended for Bodyguard to essentially be Lookout Sir, but you there's no limit to the amount of models. I think that's always what the intention was, but it just, the way that it was written, it became something else and then was fully exploited as something else. And this is them just kind of bringing it in line with Lookout Sir. So now you don't get things like a unit of wardens in a building and Trajans standing outside it, giving you the middle finger because you can't touch them, kind of thing.
That's not what a bodyguard does in real life. They get in the way of the shot. They don't just like make the person in front of them invisible.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, that's going to change a lot of strategies for just some of the missions, which is great, especially at some of the tournaments where you would play against an army, you'd see their list and you knew exactly what they were going to do, and you knew maybe never had enough utility in your own list to deal with that. So I think it's a great change, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. And while I'm happy it's changed, I will say I was also one of these bad people who exploited it with like Courts of the Archon and stuff like that, where you know, especially if you're getting like objectives that are next to ruins, you stick your character on that ruin, and your bodyguard are behind it, and then you're just holding that objective. It'll be great not to see that happening anymore.
Yeah, definitely.
definitely.
Alan, what about your Death Guard? How do you feel with the change to Bodyguard?
Well, I was almost ready to just bin those Death Shroud after they've served me well for so long. and then GW throw me a bone.
They did throw
Give
you a
them
bone.
Throw you a
Objective
bone, they threw you
secure.
a whole bloody dinosaur.
Yep. We had it before with Alan's Death Guard list when Playbush Crawlers, they went down in points just as some other things went up in points and it cancelled itself out almost. And now we've got
Yeah,
Bodyguards getting a nerf, but then they get OBSEC. That's awesome.
yeah, no, that's great. It's going to be nice to actually field a bit more Terminators than normal, because normally it was just, you take 2 units of Death Shroud, you can protect the characters, you can set out the points, just as Chris was saying there. But now, with OBSEC, that was always a big thing in the army, was that when you're playing Drukhari, Harlequins, Eldar, everything can rush out the boats and get to objectives, and they don't even need to engage you, they just need to sit there and go, you've no longer got this point. And
Yeah.
that'll now be decent to turn that around. So
Well, it's not just that, Alan. You're now, Alan's now benefiting from Armor of Contempt on those Death Shroud as well. So not only are the Death Shroud OBSEC, they now have a better armor save. Essentially a one-up armor save on anything that has AP.
Which is great.
But I was just checking. Yeah, I was just checking the date there because it sounded like Christmas, the arrival.
Yeah.
-1 AP as well. Oh, thank goodness.
Another thing I don't think we should, stray away from. You don't want to get too focused on the bodyguard being killed, because not only has bodyguard been killed, indirect fire also.
Oh yeah, it's
slaughtered.
6 feet under.
Now you say that, rival, but I come back to my normal tactic. If you roll 6s, you'll be fine. Okay?
I mean, all right, Manny Chima, but I mean, it's the fact that it says modify the ballistic skill and not the attack, which means if you're shooting over dense terrain, the dense will kick in as well, so you'll be -2 to your hit roll if you're shooting out a line of sight. I know that hit rolls can't be modified by more than one, but you're modifying the ballistic skill, then the attack's getting modified for that.
Yeah, no, that's the biggest. So ballistic skill characteristic of that attack by 1.
As someone who played 2 Scorpius Disintegrators for AdMech, probably the last 3 GTs that I've been to, this rule you'd think would be some sort of a nerf to AdMech yet again, But instead, I am absolutely delighted by it, because the only reason I really took them was to try and tackle Bodyguard, because Bodyguard was so broken. I had to try and reach behind buildings to get in to kill the units so that I could then deal with whatever the issue was. So by changing this, I can drop two 145 models that I'm quite happy to drop and have a massive little boost in points to spend on direct fire options or stuff that ignores lookout, sir.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just kind of glad they've changed indirect fire. It feels like it's been a problem for like 2 editions. Like, you know, in definitely the metas that we play in, there's been a push to get boards with enough cover or enough line of sight blocking terrain on them. But then you bring in things like we've gone through like Thunderfire cannon spam, we've gone through Whirlwind Scorpius spam, we've gone through Hive Guard spam. Probably some point Scorpius Disintegrator spam. The fact
as well.
you know, Tau. Well, definitely. I'm really glad I've not finished painting my Airbursters yet. You know, Squig Buggy spam even. You know, it's just always been constantly just too powerful. And I suppose GW could have just made sure they upped the points on all these units. But it'll be interesting to see how much, or if you'll see much indirect fire going forward.
Can we all just have a little small consolation wah for the squig buggies that now hit on 6s?
No.
Wah, wah, wah.
Wah, wah.
Although one army that doesn't give a damn about, you know, indirect fire, guardsmen. You know, they've just said that rule doesn't affect guardsmen. So man 9 Medusa list, perfectly legal, perfectly fine.
Are we going to bring up your 9 Medusas in every podcast?
Of course.
Yep.
That is never played, always talked about. There you go.
Yep.
And if
Next
you
thing
want
they'll
to
give them a 6-inch move.
Yeah. And if you want to buff it with some infantry squads, Rybo, then you don't have to worry about spending anything on war gear either.
Yeah, that's a bit of an interesting choice.
New change.
0
points for war gear for infantry.
Yeah, Guardsman Infantry only being 60 points for the unit and now all their war gear is free will be interesting.
Yeah.
Would you
Fully
bother
loaded.
baking any into your Brood Brothers just to get heavy weapon access, do you think?
I mean, it could be done. You know, you get 500 points.
Yeah.
It's a lot of bodies that D6 don't come back. But I mean, an infantry squad, so the possible upgrades for them is most primarily your heavy weapon team, you know? Getting the option for a heavy weapon team. But then you've also got the ranged weapons, the specialist ranged weapons. So you can take, I don't know, a melt-a-gun on the unit. Or I believe a sniper rifle comes under that.
I was trying to remember if is that just veteran squads that get snipers? I remember. I mean, so to be honest, like this is a lovely buff for Astra Militarum Imperial Guard, but will we see them push up the tables from it?
So their special weapons is sniper rifle, flamer, grenade launcher, melt-a-gun, plasma gun. So every single one of your guardsman squads can have, you know, a glass cannon battery with a plasma gun, you know?
60 points, and then you've got your 8 ablative wounds, because let's be frank, that's what they're there for.
Yeah.
And let's not forget, Hammer of the Emperor. If every regiment unit from your army is drawn from the same regiment, then each time a regiment model from your army makes a ranged attack, unmodified hit rolls of 6 automatically wound. Ouch.
Yeah, that is pretty strong as well. Just having global 6s to hit auto wound is great.
That is huge.
Yeah. Okay, I missed that, so maybe they will push up the tables now.
They are going to fly. When you think of some of the weapons on some of the vehicle lists that Astra Militarum can run, and you just stick on 6's wound at -3, at -2, that is wrecking armies. Well, you see Valkyries.
I don't think Valkyries get this because Valkyries, they don't have the regiment keyword.
Have they not got
the,
regiment? Ah,
I
see.
think they're like
They'll have
Aeronautica or whatever.
Aeronautica, I believe. Yeah.
That's why you can't
Ah,
take them in
okay.
Brood Brothers.
Good shout.
Yeah, they have the Aeronautica keyword.
Otherwise, yeah, a Vulture with its 40 Vulture cannon shots,
Yeah.
wounding, auto wounding on 6s to hit. Yeah, definitely would have been great, but probably best.
I mean, Punisher, Lehman Russies though. You'll just see them
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
shooting twice with the Top Gun as well.
If they move less than half, or
If they move less than half.
This is how little I've seen Imperial Guard this
So
edition.
40 short strength 5, 6s to hit auto wound
Mhm.
on a 130 point model.
Yeah.
Punisher cannons 20 points, 150, and then you can give it the side cannons and stuff like that as well if you want.
Well, that's us drilled over Ashram Latarum. We won't be drilling over the next one because someone got an absolute slapping in this data slate. The Golden Boys, the Custodies.
Yeah, they got spanked. Rightfully so, though. I mean, not the biggest spanking in this book. Well, more on that to come. But you know, this one is quite rough for the Custodies.
Yeah. So
the first point is their OBSEC.
Yeah.
You know, previously it was all infantry in the army had OBSEC. So Trajan was OBSEC. Your deep strike and Terminator, single Terminator units were OBSEC. You know, like just the Shield Captain and Terminator armor that can cross map heroically intervene. He's OBSEC. And then obviously the Custodies rule would kick in where there are multiple wounds as well, or multiple models they count as for being on objectives. So restricting this to just troops is massive for them.
Yeah. It's a great change. If you're not Custodies.
Yeah, it's a great change if you're not Custodies. I can't, thinking back to every game I've played against Custodies since their book dropped, I can't remember once where I was fighting over an objective with just troop choice Custodies.
Yeah.
But this might also cause a rise of that Sagittarium list. I believe we spoke about that last time.
Yeah,
The Sagittarium, the army of primarily Sagittarium. But also Sagittarium count as -1 AP with their main profile of their gun. Their secondary one is -3, but -1 into Space Marines isn't going to really do much now, so we'll see how that goes.
Mm-hmm. And they also got some more nerfs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Only
the
using
steamed
certain stratagems
amalgam.
once. What stratagems are they, Rybo?
The steamed amalgam, which is the Emperor's Auspice and the Martial Discretion stratagems, have now been restricted to one use only. So those stratagems were things like the ability to change in what kata one unit was in. The ability to one of them was the Emperor's Chosen specific one, and that was the ability to change which shield host fighting style you were in. So if you were Emperor's Children, you could say, no, that unit is now Shadowkeepers. You can only do that once per game now.
Yeah.
So just being able to do that is crazy good. Like it just restricts that. Because you would have people playing Emperor's Chosen because the 4-up save against mortals is brilliant, and then they would just use the 1 CP when they really needed to turn a unit into Shadowkeeper, so everything they were fighting was -1 attack. It was really strong.
Yeah.
I feel like the change to Emperor's Auspice. That was the one that I always came up against, and obviously fielding Tau with their access to rerolls with everything. It was always quite a bit of a ball ache to try and tease that out of one unit, and then you have to switch and pivot and fire everything else at something. So you weren't wasting things like re-rolling wounds and stuff. But now that's had two big changes to it, where you obviously, like you say, you can only use it once, and you can't use it on biker units anymore. It's just Adeptus Custodes infantry.
Yeah.
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 And no transhuman and no ignoring rerolls for bikes now.
Yeah. Bike lists are changed forever. which I'm not sad about in the slightest.
No.
No more 15 bikes.
Yeah, you're gonna really struggle to see those lists in there now. I don't know the route that the custodies will go down now. It'll be interesting to see what lists come up. I mean, bikes are still great. Bikes are really good. They were good without those stratagems, but they were pretty immortal once you slap those stratagems on them. So
Yeah.
restricting that is great. Having that restriction in there is a really good change.
We're definitely coming from the side that none of us play custodies and have to play into it frequently.
I mean, I have a Custodes army, but playing against it, there's nothing worse than every turn just bouncing off the same unit because transhuman for a CP, turn off rerolls for a CP, and that's it. You just bounce off them. My counter to that was at the OPG Teams tournament. I played against Custodes, and I just had to throw all my mortal wounds at them. And thankfully, the Custodes I was against weren't Emperor's Chosen, so that it was on 6-ups that were on mortals, which they didn't roll that many, and I was taking out bikes units that way. Otherwise, I was going to struggle to take them out.
Yeah, it's nice the way they've done this data slate because the Custodes, just the way the book is written, without the buffs for these certain things have taken away, you can still run a really competitive Custodes list. They've still got a lot of really good stuff in that book, and they've not changed the points.
No,
So
they
you're
didn't
keeping the
change those
same army.
points reductions. Trajan is still crazy cheap. You just can't
exactly.
bodyguard them now.
Massive value all through the book. There's a little section in the data slate for AdMech just to remind us AdMech players that you're still nerfed.
Yeah, they didn't change anything with AdMech this
No.
time, did they? It's just a little reminder post.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
I'm with you, Mark. I've still got the Drukhari nerfs there.
The Space Marines player we have though, with his salamanders, has a little change because each time an attack is made against a unit with the Forged in Battle Salamanders tactic, the attack's wound roll cannot be re-rolled. So they now just turn off re-rolling wound rolls. That's pretty strong. That's a good ability.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's a Sisters of Battle. Is it Valorous Heart? So both them and Salamanders previously had that ignore AP1, but now everything in Power Armor gets ignore AP1.
Yeah.
So they obviously have had to change both the traits a wee bit to make them a bit different. I think like anything that modifies the wound roll is super powerful this edition and last edition. And so turning off wound rerolls, like it used to be something when I was running Drukhari, and if you're running Cult of Strife with strats to reroll wounds or Coven have easy access to that through a strat, kind of what you would rely on to get your kills through. So being able to say no reroll wounds for you, I think is super strong.
Yeah. I think especially when you look at some of the characters that people can take. I mean, I've got one, a Marshal for AdMech, who built in his ability is to reroll wound rolls of 1. Completely pointless when you're playing Salamanders now.
Yeah,
Doesn't do
definitely.
anything
Space
else.
Marine Lieutenant, anything like that, yeah.
Yeah. Let's move on to the big one. The big list that's been killed completely. The Space Clowns have lost the Void Weaver list.
Yep, I've got 3 Void Weavers if anyone wants to buy them. I'll be putting them up on eBay now.
I didn't buy them for this very reason. Everyone was spamming them. They're going to get nerfed. You don't buy them. But yeah, so a total point increase of 360 points on that list. That seems fair.
I mean, it was very powerful. And I suppose the question is a Void Weaver worth 130 points now? It still can move if you're taking it in the light side. If it can still move 22 inches, still has a strength 12 gun with 2 shuriken cannons on it. And you can still do other shenanigans where it's like hard to hit. You can't reroll hit rolls or you miss it on anything less than a 4. It's still very powerful. It's just not something you're going to spam in a full army now.
Yeah, definitely. I went up against this at the OPG Teams tournament. It didn't have 9, he had 8. Sean had 8, which was nice. But yeah, very powerful. 3 came out straight away and just popped a Plague Burst Crawler like it was nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see where that list goes.
Yeah.
You know, we'll just. I don't know the Harlequin book that well, to be fair. So we'll just see.
I think we'll see
I-
more dark
See how it's
Harlequins
going.
now with their fighting on death. Light was really leaning into Void Weavers and things as well, but a lot of dark Harlequins might appear. I like the change to the Mirrored Architect pivotal role. Now it's just selecting one unit, one core unit, which is troops, because troops get core now. And they
Yeah, that's true.
get the additional 6 inches rather than it being an aura. So that's a sensible move. We've got a warlord trait change, the one that the Death Jester used to abuse really well. For now, it's a melee hit roll rather than a ranged attack. So that's a good one as well. So that some of the stuff just makes a bit of sense, and they've killed the Void Weaver list. I think these are good changes.
Yeah, definitely. And again, I'm same as Ryan. I don't play Harlequins. I don't know it inside out. I know some of the guys from the Dominion Air chat are chatting about, especially after it was confirmed Harlequin troops get core, just taking 100 odd troops, and then yeah, I suppose you could take that in the Dark Seedith, so they've got that sort of fight on death ability. That would still be quite strong and not something I would want to necessarily go up against.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That was the list that very similar to what Stephen Box was running at Vanguard Tactics, which he was doing well with. And it's a good list. So, Tau have a few changes.
Yeah, yeah, just a few. So obviously they saw the recruit meta. Everyone started to panic. You know, if there's any chance that I might win something, that's obviously bad for the game. So they had to change everything. Not bitter at all, but yeah, I mean they're fairly sensible changes. Obviously, a lot of the indirect fire changes that we chatted about earlier really affects Tau. They love their airbursters, their SMS, stuff like that. So Tau normally hit on 4s, so that -1 to your ballistic skill will hurt. Obviously, there is options to get Markalites to support that, and I know that some people had been wishing that like indirect fire can benefit from Markalites, but it can still at the moment. But things that directly changed in the Tau book, Montcar, which was the more popular of the tactical philosophies that Tau choose at the start of the game, used to be if you were 18, 12, or 6 inches away in turn 1, 2, and 3, respectively, you got an extra pip of AP. That's no longer a thing. That's kind of big. Tau Flamers were quite popular. I know our fellow knight Connor was running a lot of those, and there's other ways to upgrade AP, so you could even get like AP2, maybe even AP3 Flamers. That's going to be less now. They've taken core away from broadside battlesuits. And we were chatting about this just before this, Mark. You were saying, well, if my chickens can't get them, I don't see why your broadsides get them.
If I
sort of
can't
thing,
have it, you can't have it.
No, exactly. I mean, you know, it's not very sportsmanship to wish that on us, Mark, but I can understand it.
Let's just get the Redemptor Dreadnought sorted out and I'll be happy.
Well, exactly, yeah. How come Dreadnoughts get it? Probably because they're poster boys, but there you go. Not bitter at all, like I said. Other big change, I suppose, was Farsight's one getting changed. So Farsight Set 10 used to be if you're within 12 inches of a unit, you count as having a marker light on them, which in effect for Tau just means they get +1 to hit. That's changed to 9 inches. I suppose that is quite big for Tau, especially Farsight lists. They'll probably still want to get super close. You'll probably still see plenty of breachers and things like that in Farsight lists. But it means that when they come in from Deep Strike, they don't benefit from it anymore. And especially Farsight liked coming from Deep Strike because their set-specific strat was reroll all hits and all wounds when you come in from Deep Strike. So that's a big hit to them, definitely.
Interesting.
Yeah, last one is just the mixing of photon grenades with, I think it was called repulsor impact field. So you used to be able to do strat on an infantry unit and called photon grenades, and it would just be -2 to charge. It still does that, but you can't sort of use that in combination with any other ability that gives minuses to charge now. So you can't get that lovely sort of -4 to charge by having say a squad of fire warriors next to crisis suits or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Lots of changes, and just in time for Tyrannus to come out.
Well, yeah, that's the big thing, isn't it?
That's gonna be a real spanner in the works. I've just done this amazing balanced data slate, and then Nids are just going to become Harlequins 2.0.
Yeah.
Really is the only way to say it. That is if they can still use Crusher Stampede. And I was reading an article in Goonhammer, and it's basically they were saying the new Nid book is going to be Harlequins, if not better than the Harlequins win rate wise, unless they comp out Crusher Stampede. If Crusher Stampede is no more, then the book is a little bit more balanced. It's still going to be a really, really strong book, but yeah, Crusher Stampede is going to be a bit insane.
Yeah. Unless the Space Marines can save us, because I mean they've been buffed through the roof now, haven't they?
Yeah, we'll see what I can come. I've got a little test tonight at the club with the Grey Knight stuff. So I'm gonna be running a unit of paladins with the psychic power that gives them all +1 armor. So if you give them their buff, then the +1 armor, they're sitting at a 0 up save. If you put them in cover, they've got a -1 save. So it can get quite silly.
It's good to try.
So we'll
it out,
see
though.
what we can do.
See how it goes.
No, great to try it out.
Alan, what are you taking to the club tonight?
So, I think I'll be taking Terminators, and more Terminators, Mark. I hope you're looking forward to that.
Nice.
But I'm also taking the tried and tested, the good old 3 Plague Burst Trawlers.
We'll make sure we've got some dense terrain in there for you then.
Thank you.
Yeah. My AdMech list, with its additional 290 points that I've dropped the Scorpiuses from, has allowed me to take an Assassin, which I never really had enough space for, and I love taking an Assassin with AdMech. And also allows me to throw in some Tech Priests again, the Electro Priests, which I can Deep Strike. So I'll be having a bit of fun with this list tonight to see if we can grab a few Terminators and have some fun with them. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes.
You have just brought up another good point, actually, there, Mark, that I didn't even clock about the new bodyguard rule.
Go for it.
If you have a sniper that ignores lookout, sir, you also ignore bodyguard now.
Yes, you do. You do. Yeah. And
I didn't even think about that.
yeah, I was saying earlier on when I was speaking to Nick Malone, our other night with the Salamanders, that I'm going to probably put quite a few ignore lookout sir models in my list now, because AdMech have transonic arquebuses, I think they're called, which I can put with Rangers or Vanguard. And they've got a decent profile, D3 damage, 6s to wound, do a mortal wound, strength 7 weapon. It's pretty decent, so I'll probably throw a few of them in. If you run it with Metallica, you ignore the modifier to move on your heavy weapon, so you can actually do a fair bit with them. I'm looking forward to all these changes, guys.
Yeah, definitely.
I think we're all fairly happy with it, aren't we?
Yeah.
It was like me and Mark spoken before about the bodyguard rule just being a bit broken, and about out of line of sight shooting being a bit too overpowered, especially on denser boards, which would just taken away from the game of being able to move out and shoot and do what you need to do. You know, that way, play in the middle.
Oh well, guys, I think we've covered the data slate. Overall, in one word, just one word, tell me what you think of it. So we'll go to you, Chris, first. In one word, what do you think of the data slate?
I suppose my expectations were low, so surprising.
Surprising. Good one. Good one. Rybo.
Beautiful.
I like it.
Absolutely beautiful. My Grey Knights are back.
Alan?
Christmas.
Christmas for the Death Guard player. Yeah. And I'll go for delightful. I am delighted by it. So, well, that's all for us tonight. Thanks very much for joining us. And until next time, keep listening.